Nashvillians know hard work. But listen, that doesn't mean you have to do it all yourself. TaxRabbit has been helping folks in Music City for over a decade with everything from furniture assembly to minor home repairs. If it's a gorgeous weekend out, do not let that to-do list ruin it for you. Just hop on the TaskRabbit app, describe what you need, and find a skilled tasker right in your neighborhood who can take it off your plate. Pricing is totally transparent. You'll see the hourly rate up front, which includes the tasker rate and the service fee, so there are no surprises at checkout. Download the TaskRabbit app or visit taskrabbit.com today to get those home to-dos crossed off.
Today on CityCast Nashville, we are in prime camping season here in Middle Tennessee. The nights are still cool. The mosquitoes haven't yet reached lethal proportions. But if you've never slept under the stars before, where should you start? We're revisiting my conversation with former Nashville Patagonia store manager Matt Heinley, who's got all the advice you need to head for the hills. It's Thursday, April 23rd. I'm your executive producer, Whitney Pastorek, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Folks, before we get into today's show, I wanted to jump on here just real quick and talk about our CityCast Nashville Neighbors membership program. We are into the final 2 days of our spring campaign, and we have already seen support from so many of you. Thank y'all so much. You do not know how good it feels when we get that little Slack notification that a new person believes in and supports what we do over here. We sit here and we look forward to those dings all day long. So thank you to those of you who've already joined during this campaign. And you know, you've heard Marie pitching CityCast Nashville Neighbors all week long, some of last week. And I really want to take a second to shout her out because this show could not exist without her love for this city, her compassion, her talent, and her giant, giant heart. I know so many of you out there in Radio Land adore that woman as much as I do. And there is no better way to show it than by going to membership.citycast.fm/Nashville and becoming a neighbor right now. You'll also be showing your appreciation for the incredible Margaret Kingsbury, who edits our CityCast Nashville newsletter every day, as well as compiling the exclusive members-only events emails that go out to our neighbors each week. That's a perk. And you'll also be supporting me, which would be helpful because sometimes living in this city makes me very, very tired. But I'm not going to stop fighting for it because I believe in Nashville and I believe the work we do here at CityCast is an important part of that fight. But don't take my word for it. One of the best parts of the membership campaigns is hearing from the people who sign up to join us. We love hearing their stories and reasons for becoming a part of our community. And I think my favorite member comment of all time comes from a neighbor called Jack C., who wrote in to share that he was once a local beat reporter for a small newspaper out in California. He remembers folks walking into their storefront office all the time and talking to them about the stories they wrote. And he described his work back then as, quote, covered the cops, city government, and wrote features that captured the character and characters of my town. We all know how much local media is struggling right now, but the work hasn't changed. Here at CityCast Nashville, we are so proud to cover the character and characters of this city. And we've got so many more stories left to tell, and you've got so many more stories left to tell us. So, hey, if you've got an extra $10 a month, that's cheaper than a draft beer on Broadway, people. You can join Jack and become a CityCast Nashville neighbor today. Go to membership.citycast.fm/Nashville to sign up and show us your love. We'll send that love right back to you, I promise. And now, on with the show. It's Friday afternoon. You're on the group text with all your friends, and people are like, I got to get out of town. I want to sleep under the stars, but I want to be back for brunch on Sunday. What's the closest campground to Nashville where we can pull that off?
We are super lucky. My first place I would head would be South Cumberland State Park. It's kind of nestled in between like Monteagle and Tracy City. It's far enough away to feel like you're getting away, but close enough that, you know, if it starts pouring at 2 a.m. or you got to make that brunch on Sunday, you can still get back pretty quickly, but still feel like you're outside and disconnected. One of the things that has been bothering me for the last year is we had a really great team member that worked with us here for a couple of years that grew up out west. I think was most recently in Arizona before they moved to Nashville. And he and his wife made the decision to move back to Arizona. And there was other factors, but one of the factors, and his voice still rings in my head to this day, is just they wanted more access to open space and public land. And at first I was like, yeah, I totally get it. You know, I can't blame you. And then the more I've sat with that, I hear Adam's voice in my head. And I just am realizing that we could do a lot more to connect folks to the great outdoor access that exists here within an hour or a couple hours drive from Nashville. I think we are obviously super close proximity to the Great Smoky Mountains. There are a plethora of great state parks in Tennessee where you can get pretty remote pretty quick.
What makes that first state park you mentioned special to you?
South Cumberland State Park. I just think of a specific trip that my family went on, probably the first time that my older boys did like a hike in backcountry site. And by hike in backcountry, I mean like we were 2 miles from the car. But it was that first time taking them somewhere where they had to carry everything on their back. And we were out there in a great site that was right near a ridge with a really pretty outlook into this super pretty wooded gorge. I think that's what draws me to that park, is more just the memory of that trip and watching them experience that for the first time, of carrying their own gear, of prepping their own food, of making sure the site was bear proof before they tried to fall asleep. I think there's just a lot of fun memories from that weekend. And again, we were in and out in a weekend, super close to home, but we still got to get out there and make a great memory.
But what if someone has never camped before and they're listening to this episode? Where do you recommend they start?
I think it's super easy to kind of go the Tom Haverford from Parks and Rec route and feel like you need to have like
you go to
your
Sky Mall,
PlayStation and your toaster, and you Sky Mall the whole thing. I think it's easy to go down that rabbit hole pretty quickly because you don't really realize how many amenities and like comfort things you have around you all the time, that when you start trying to put everything that you're going to need, even if it's just for a night, into one backpack, it can get a little scary pretty quickly, especially if it's your first foray into that world. So I think it's good to start small and it's good to ease into that. I wouldn't go for a 5-day backpacking trip because you're probably going to be miserable. You're not used to that yet. Obviously, the most important is some form of shelter. So a tent, appropriate clothing, the right layers for the conditions that you're in, and also for the conditions that could pop up out of nowhere. As you know, living in this part of the world, we've got some stormy seasons that tend to happen in the normal spring, fall, but you might get a random winter storm that pops up out of nowhere.
Or there's those summer pop-ups where it's a gorgeous day and then it's 4:30 and it's the apocalypse.
Right. And nobody saw it coming. So I think it's important to have just those basic necessities with you: a dry change of clothes, a waterproof jacket, a way to stay dry, and a way to stay warm. We're lucky to live in an area that there's a ton of access to some great state parks, a lot of great camping and outdoor access in a pretty close proximity. So if you do get to your campsite, you've hiked in a couple miles, it's not the end of the world to hike another 2 miles back to your car and go. Folks can find some really great resources at tnstateparks.com. You can sort our state parks by activity or camping options and a lot of other filters as well. And if people are interested in camping around Percy, Priest Lake, go to recreation.gov for some information there.
Let's talk to the nice people about car camping. Car camping is this revelatory concept where you literally drive to your campsite, you back up, you open your trunk or your tailgate, and then everything you need is there, and all you need to do is pitch a tent. So it doesn't even involve the extra layer of wilderness skills.
Right. That's probably where I'd recommend starting, is car camping. You know, you can get a pretty cheap campsite for like a $12 fee at a lot of the state parks close to here. Like you said, you have your car and a backup shelter literally right there next to you. I would encourage you to try the tent and and try your roll-up mattress and see how you do. But if you need to, your car is right there.
And you will inevitably not bring enough firewood in that scenario, and you will need to drive back out to get more.
Right. That's a good thing to call out too. I know that we're not like talking about firewood right now, but there's a lot of awareness currently around people bringing in firewood from non-native species from other forests around that carry with them pests and bugs and sometimes fungus that can be detrimental to the local trees that are here. So make sure if you are taking firewood with you that you are getting it likely from the campground office is probably the best route to go because they've done that hard work for you. And most campgrounds have a stand where you can get some firewood and maybe even some ice for your cooler.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's usually a lovely older couple that lives there year round in a spectacular RV, and they are great resources for everything you need to know. So you are not going out and being all alone in an into the wild scenario with your family. Right. You're just with neighbors and you can ask questions you have. Speaking of that, if you've got young children, what are some of the things you recommend, either things to bring or even campsites that you like nearby that work? I know you're a dad.
Yeah. So Edgar Evans State Park is out. I think it's just a little bit west of Cookeville, but great car camping sites, super close proximity to Burgess and Cummins Falls. And I took my older boys out there a few years ago and we checked the weather. Everything was super clear. We chose a car camping site just in case. I think the rain started consistently around like 10:30 p.m. and it rained all night long. Nobody got any sleep. We immediately drove to Ralph's Donuts in Cookeville the next morning to commiserate and ate some really great donuts and then drove home because the rain was not stopping. That story now is one that we've told again and again and again. And it's just fun for us to relive that moment. So even when it goes wrong, it doesn't mean it's going bad. It's just not how you planned it to go.
How do you talk to kids about we're going to be sleeping outside?
It probably depends on the kid. I mean, it sounds super cool and exciting, right? It's an adventure. It's rugged. A lot of, especially younger kids, are probably in a pretty strict routine where they have a very strict bedtime routine and everything kind of always rolls on like clockwork every day. And so you're pulling them out of that routine. It's super fun and exciting. If you've ever spent time in the woods, as soon as the sun goes down and you don't see any lights, you start hearing a lot of snapping twigs and sounds you're not familiar with. So I think preparing them for what they're going to hear and feel and probably not see because it will be dark if you've gone to the right spot. And just talking about that a lot ahead of time. And the most important thing probably for especially a younger kid is to make sure they have a flashlight or a lantern that they can control and have access to, because that just kind of helps give a little sense of security. And if they do hear a spooky noise, they've got a light right there that they can try to investigate what's going on.
Hey y'all, it's Marie, host of CityCast Nashville. We are in our spring membership campaign and have something really exciting to give new neighbors who join over the next 2 weeks. You've probably seen Oxford pennants, felt wool pennants on Instagram or hanging in your favorite local spots. You know the ones, they're brightly colored, American made, and honestly, pretty freaking cool. And guess what? This spring, they have made one just for us, for Nashville, as a celebration of everything we love about our city. It's yellow, has our city name front and center, a guitar icon, because come on, we're Music City. And it says, I live here on purpose, because we do. These are handcrafted in Buffalo, New York, and designed specifically for CityCast Nashville. These are one of a kind. You are not going to find them anywhere else. So go ahead, hang it in your home, at your office, wherever you want to remind yourself and everyone around you that you love this city with all its quirks and that you want to be a part of making it better. And when you become a CityCast Nashville neighbor, you're also getting ad-free listening, invitations to member-only events, and more. It's $10 a month or $100 a year, and it goes directly to supporting the show and the team of locals who make it. Join before April 24th to get the pennant at membership.citycast.fm/Nashville. That's membership.citycast.fm/Nashville. We'll see you around the neighborhood.
Hi, it's me, Whitney, again. I'm popping back in to remind you we're in the final days of our spring membership campaign, TikTok, and we still need more than 50 of you to join in order to reach our goal. 50 sounds big, but honestly, that's fewer people than can fit on a full WeGo bus. And so I know we can do it. More than that, we need to do it because we're counting on y'all to sustain the work of our small but mighty team. Marie, Margaret, and I are proudly member supported, and we hope you'll join our squad. If you've been on the fence all week, we sure hope you'll come on board in these last couple days. And if you don't have the financial ability to join us right now, we understand. But if you do, you want to get in on our special gift, the yellow Oxford pennant that says Nashville and I live here on purpose. I can speak from personal experience that the Oxford people make a fine product. I've got one of their banners for a band I love called The Hold Steady right behind me here on the wall. It's great quality, and I can't wait to hang our Nashville pennant next to it and make my Zoom background look even cooler. So you at home, you can get the pennant and become one of the CityCast Nashville neighbors supporting the show for just $10 a month or $100 a year by going to membership.citycast.fm/Nashville. Killer parties almost killed me. That's a Hold Steady lyric. And now back to camping. All right, let's talk about camping near water. Percy, obviously, Anderson Road is great. There are a couple sites along there. In other areas of the lake, some are a little bit more of a drive. What about Old Hickory? Are there campsites on Old Hickory Lake?
I think lakes like that, you have to keep in mind there's going to be a lot of boat activity, a lot of motorized boat activity. And so it's just a different vibe. It's not going to be the same feeling as getting out into the woods far away from people. You're probably going to have some neighbors in close proximity. There's a lot of RV sites along Old Hickory and Percy Priest as well. But there are definitely some great tent spots. I know that Cedars of Lebanon out in Lebanon has some water access as well. That might be a little bit quieter. And I think Bledsoe Creek State Park outside of Gallatin, there's sections of that water that motorized boats aren't able to access. And so there are some quieter, more peaceful areas where you can get in.
Yeah, there's nothing like getting woken up by somebody's jet ski rampage at 3 a.m.
Right.
Let's talk about some of the best practices for camping around etiquette and how to exist, especially in these car camping sites where there are other people.
The most important is the leave no trace principle. I think that's something that a lot of folks are probably aware with that phrase, and some may not be. The most important thing you can do anytime that you're stepping into a wild place is to make sure that you're leaving it as you found it or better, making sure that if you're hiking, you're staying on a trail and not straying off of the trail and damaging vegetation that's there. Anything you pack in with you, that it's packed back out, keeping in mind the impact that you're having on the environment around you. From a noise perspective too, there are a lot of noise sensitive animals that call these places home. So being respectful, not just of the land that you're walking on, but the other animals and creatures around you, would probably advise people not to blast music through the woods. I think for the noise pollution that it could cause to the other people and animals around you, but also just for yourself. I think to have that quiet time in solitude and listen to the symphony of the trees and the wind and the birds around you is way more impactful.
And if you're bringing your dog, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Make sure you've got a long enough leash that they can move around and enjoy themselves. If they're going in the water, make sure they've got a high-vis life jacket. Much like you got to keep an eye on your kids when they're in the woods, you got to keep an eye on your dogs too.
Very much so.
And then just at these car camping places or state parks or whatever, just to make this really clear for folks at home who maybe have never tried this before, are there bathrooms?
It depends. What I would do is go to the state park website. You can actually search by activity and look at all of the camping options that are available. So they have everything from RV pads that are gravel pads with water hookup and access and close proximity to wash houses and restrooms. There's some car camping sites that are a little more removed. You're walking distance away from probably a bathroom, maybe a shower. And then there are some hike and backcountry sites too, where you can leave all of that behind and you're up to your own devices.
What do people need for that? And what are the things that they should mentally prepare for when they're really going off the grid?
Food, shelter, water, access to fresh water is probably going to be limited. So if you are hiking and you're not carrying potable water with you, have some sort of filtration system. You can get gravity bags that filter through where you can pull water out of a creek and filter it that way, all the way down to like a life straw where you literally are just pulling water out of the creek with a built-in filter. And then be prepared with food.
Yeah. What do you eat? Is it like space meals? You bring like astronaut space meals?
You can do that. I'm a fan of jet boil and some good dehydrated space meals. A lot of peanut butter and jelly is super easy. It takes a while to spoil, so you can kind of carry that with you for a little bit. Keep in mind, though, that we do live in a state in a part of the country that does have a lot of bear activity, especially as you get into some more of these remote areas. Do some research around what to do in woods that are known to be inhabited by bears. Food and refuse are the two main attractors. So make sure that if you are cooking a meal, clean everything up as much as you can around yourself, and then store your food away from your tent. Just because it's in your car does not mean that it's bear proof. So make sure that everything that you are storing is properly sealed and airtight so that that scent is not getting out and attracting bears. I am not an expert on what to do if a bear approaches you, but I would do some research and make sure that you are prepared. There's not a lot of folks in Middle Tennessee that would carry bear spray with them or, bells on their boots, but it's not a bad idea to at least have some sort of protection with you and know what to do if the bear does get too close.
Yes, I've watched many episodes of Alone, and I think you just make
Right,
your body
exactly.
very large and then you loudly say, "Hey, bear."
Sure.
CityCast Nashville is not liable if you listen to this episode and get eaten by a bear.
Neither is Patagonia.
What sorts of things do people maybe not think about that they need to bring or be conscious of? I know that there are some bug sprays that can actually be detrimental to the creatures that live in water. Probably I would assume the same about sunscreen.
Yeah, the sunscreen is a big one. Make sure that you're using a sunscreen that's certified reef safe. Socks are huge, and this is coming from a person that does not like to wear shoes or socks. I'm in sandals just about year round unless necessity forces me to adopt a pair of socks and shoes. But typically any kind of merino wool that's going to keep your feet dry. A lot of people hear merino wool and they think that it's just going to be too hot. But merino does a really great job at regulating body temperature and most importantly, keeping you dry and stink free. It's worth the extra weight to carry around just to have a couple pairs of socks with you in case you need to swap out.
We've mentioned these things that you need, right? Shelter, inclement weather gear, great pair of socks, maybe some sort of water filtration device. All this stuff can really add up. If somebody does not have the money to walk into Patagonia and buy fresh new versions of everything, what are your recommendations for what they can do?
Our goal at Patagonia is for you to be in a moment where you are connecting with nature and using our gear and not be thinking about what you're wearing on your body because it's performing as it should in that environment. Like you said, it can be hard to access some of our product at the price points that they're at. Our Worn Wear program is a great opportunity for people that are trying to put together a gear closet on a budget. Wornwear.com is a great resource. It's all pre-owned, used Patagonia gear that we take back in, that we will sell at a discounted price. They've been washed thoroughly. They've been checked to make sure that the product integrity is all still there. It is an investment. It's an investment in not just the piece of gear, but also in the experience that you're going to have. So anything that we make at Patagonia falls under what we call our ironclad guarantee. So if any part of that product is defective, it doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks or 20 years after the date of purchase. If something's wrong with that product, seams are ripping out, the zipper is broken, you get a pretty nasty tear in it, you could always bring it back to the store or access a return online, and we'll repair or replace those items as needed. The story we make sure we try to tell folks that are coming in that might be concerned about spending $280 on a rain shell is that rain shell is intended to last you for as long as you need it. And then the real hope is that when you're finished with it, that you can either sell it back to us through the Worn Wear program or pass it on to somebody else who can take it on its next chapter of adventures.
Yeah, let's take it down a notch, though, in budget. And I'm going to ask you to talk about some other alternatives. And just as a person, not as the manager of the Patagonia store, like if I go to Academy and buy like a $150 Coleman tent and a rain poncho, can I still get by out there?
Absolutely. You can. I would also encourage folks to check out, we have some great wholesale partners in town that a lot of times will have some past season merchandise on clearance or on a pretty decent discount. Cumberland Transit over on the west side of town off West End across from Centennial Park has a great off-price, I don't know if they call it a clearance or past season discount section. There's some really great deals there. REI is known to do their annual garage sale down in Brentwood, and you can get some great merch down there at a pretty good price break. Mountain High Outfitters, also down in Franklin, has the ability to mark some of that past season gear down a little bit. So I think just be savvy. Regardless of your budget, it's really easy to walk into one of those gear shops and think that you need to get all of these different things. So I would be really intentional about thinking through, I'm going to buy a piece that's not just going to serve me on this one camping trip that I may or may not hate, but something that you're also going to be able to use in your everyday life. If you're dipping your toe in the camping water, going out and buying a brand new $150 tent is probably not the right move. I would phone a friend and see if you've got somebody, a family member or a friend or a neighbor or somebody that you sat down next to at Arnold's 2 weeks ago and swapped info. Just ask around to see if anybody has a tent that you can borrow. I think that that's one of the great things about the outdoor industry is most folks are really open to making the outdoors more accessible to everyone else around them. So just ask.
And this is another great place to use those Facebook Buy Nothing groups, your local Craigslist, because there are a lot of people out there who made the mistake of spending a ton on something and then realized that they're never going to use it again. People might be asking, is this just an advertisement for the local Patagonia store? But the reason I wanted you to be on here, Matt, is that I think the great thing about your store is y'all are not just a retail outlet, but you are a true community hub. Talk a little bit about all the things that you do, from in-store events to ways to get out into the wilderness around our city.
I'm glad you said that. You've probably heard me say this before, but for the folks obviously that haven't, we use our retail stores as a hub for community activism. And a lot of times that product can act as a conduit to bring people to us. And then we can also open up these doors to some maybe new ways of thinking or a new adventure that they hadn't previously thought was possible. And so we really focus a lot of our time partnering with local nonprofit groups that are addressing root causes of climate change or social injustice. And the in-store events, like you mentioned, are just a great way for us to invite folks in to have an experience here that doesn't necessarily have to be transactional. Sometimes we'll do some like limited series of either trail runs that will meet at a trailhead or a bike ride or a run that will meet here at the shop, and we'll start and end there.
You've partnered with a lot of our community gardens. Why is that an important part of what y'all do?
So our founder, Yvon Chouinard, when he's asked why Patagonia has forayed into having a food provisions line, his response is that if we're talking about how we as a company can address root causes of climate change, you might buy a new fleece or rain shell once every 5 to 10 years, but you eat 3 times a day. And so food is one of the ways that we can have a really big impact in not just the food that people are eating, but how and where that food is grown and how it's processed, if at all. And so partnering with local groups that are really working on regenerative farming practices, we have a great nonprofit partner that we've supported some work, the Southeastern Young Farmers Coalition, that is doing a lot of great work to help younger people tap into resources, allowing them to start some small farms here in the mid-state.
What's the best way for people to stay in touch with everything y'all have going on?
You can find us on the Instagram. We have a newsletter. So if you are not currently on our newsletter, but you want to know more about the local events and see some alerts about what we have coming down, you can visit patagonia.com/Nashville to sign up for that. Or you can also just call us at the shop or swing in.
Matt, I so appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us. I know this is not by any means a comprehensive guide to how to start camping, but I guess my advice to our listeners would be, if you've got questions, just go to the Patagonia store. They are so nice. They will help you.
I just Googled what is camping and got everything I needed to know. So that was perfect. Yeah.
You're fired. Before we go, I want to thank everyone who's joined CityCast Nashville Neighbors during our spring campaign so far, especially our newest neighbor, Carice O. What's up, girl? And highlight a great comment we got from new neighbor Amy Y., who says, quote, "I'm new to Nashville, and you guys have been an invaluable resource to help me learn about the city, socially, politically, and more. You cover a great cross-section of topics to represent the many dimensions of life in a rapidly growing city, and I think you do a good job of presenting it from many perspectives." Well, thank you, Amy. I think we do too, but I'm biased. Anyway, y'all, just a few more days to go, and we still need at least 50 of you to support us so we can reach our goal. I've got a big tote board in the office, trust me. It's just $10 a month or $100 a year, so go to membership.citycast.fm/Nashville and smash that join button. That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And don't forget, early voting for the Davidson County primary elections is going on now through April 30th, with Election Day on May 5th. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, become a neighbor, and subscribe to our CityCast Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Y'all take care of each other.